Hi everyone, I'd like to show you how to create this amazing Agile Gantt chart in Excel. A lot of people think that you need fancy tools to create a Gantt chart or have a project plan, but that's just not the case. You can create it with a little bit of skill in Excel and create something absolutely amazing. This particular Gantt chart works in sprints. So as you'll see, if we have our sprint start number, maybe we start at sprint 5 in this particular case. Now our sprints start at 5 and go all the way up until as long as we want them to go up for. We've got a beautiful calendar that actually updates dynamically. So if we were to change this date to January, for example, then it will actually dynamically update this calendar and it will show you where you are today. So we've got that line showing where we currently are. If we update the percent complete, maybe we've got 50% for this particular one. Now that's going to update. Maybe we've got 60% for this one. Now you can see that progress bar is updating. And if it's blocked, it'll show orange, but if it's in progress, it'll show that nice blue. Of course, you can change that to any color that you like. And of course, if it's complete, it's going to give us this nice yellow cell at the end. But if it's in progress, there we go, that disappears. This is going to be a whole bunch of fun. I'll show you step by step how to create one yourself. And of course, if you don't want to take the time to do this yourself, if you find that it is just a bit too much or it takes a bit too much time, you can actually get this in a pack with a whole bunch of amazing templates, which will save you over 100 hours of work if you ever want to. All right, let's get into this chart. Now the first thing we're going to do is just the general layout and colors and borders of our Gantt chart. So I will do that and I'll show you a few tricks here. And if you are already familiar with all of those things, or if you don't need to know the layout, then you can skip ahead to the next section, which shows you more of the formulas. But as we're going along, we're going to just start by putting a nice gray bar at the top of our Gantt chart. Our first section will be our sprint start number. And our second one will be our sprint start date. Our third one will be our project name. And if we select all of these, put them into the middle and over to the right hand side, we're going to increase the indent just a little bit so that they are just there measured nicely. Now our first column here, our first cell, we're going to just give this a nice dark blue. Our second one, a nice dark green. And our project name, we can call this anything we like. This can be our amazing project number 2. Now these we want to be bold, and this amazing project, we'll put this in the middle and just increase the size a little bit, maybe make it a little bit of a gray color. Our sprint start date, we're going to make this the 15th of August 24. You can start this whenever you like. And our sprint start number will be sprint number 1. Now we just need to make that white, so the text needs to be white. And for both of those, we'll put those in the middle so that they stand out, and that's quite nice. Let's put some borders around this, all borders, just to make it nice and easy. And now our Gantt chart is starting to take shape. Now let's put some headings in. We've got our number, we've got the activity that we want, we've got who it's assigned to, we've got the start date, we've got the end date. We're going to skip G and H because we're going to use that as a helper column later on, but we'll talk more about that later. We want the days that we're working on the item. We want the status of the item. Is it in progress? Is it complete? And lastly, we want the percentage done. For all of these, let's select them, put them in the middle and make them bold, and let's increase the size just a little bit so that they stand out. Let's add some numbers down the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if we take our 3 and 4 and drag the bottom corner all the way down, that will just continue to number all of those numbers down the side. Let's put them in the middle again and make those bold. Now I'm going to copy just some general data that we're going to use as we're going through our Gantt chart. And as you can see, it's just the deliverable names. You can put anything that you like in here. Let's increase that indent again so that that looks nice. Who it's assigned to, just some names here. And the start and end dates. But as you can see, they've just come through as numbers. So if we select all of these, right click and format those cells, let's go to custom, and in our section here, we're going to have 2 days, a dash, 3 months, a dash, and 2 years. And as you can see, that's how it's going to look. So let's click OK. Now that looks a lot nicer. Now for our days, let's just color this first because we're not doing any formulas just yet. We'll make it a nice dark green with white text, and that will show up later. The percentage done, before we do anything here, we want to select this column, and we just want to make sure that this is a percentage style before we type anything in. And the reason is, now that we type this in, it's going to come up as a percentage instead of just a number. And of course, for this, we want this to be in the middle again, and we can increase the size just a little bit. Now, a few other things on our formatting. I'm going to do the borders, but to do that and just show you exactly how it's done, let's go to View and turn off the grid lines. So now we're wanting to put in some of these grid lines of our own. If we select this gray bar up the top, go to Home, and let's go to More Borders. Let's give ourselves a medium sort of gray and put this down the bottom and click OK. Now for our data section, we'll select all of our data section here, and we're going to do the same thing. Go to More Borders, and let's give ourselves an in-between border and a bottom border. Make sure that's our sort of medium style gray, so that's good. And maybe a top border as well, just make sure that that is there. Click OK, and now it's starting to take shape. Let's put one down the side, just separating our activities from the rest. And it's looking better and better. Now we really need to start looking at the Gantt chart calendar area. So let's select the top left-hand area, which is M6 in this one. We'll go all the way to the end and all the way just to the bottom. With all of that selected, let's go back to our Borders tool, and for our Gantt chart calendar area, I think we just want a lighter gray, but we also want all of the inside areas and all of the outside areas. You can see that they've shown up there. We'll click OK. Now we've got something to work with. Oh, and I just realized I missed these lines here, so we'll add those in too. Wow, that's looking better already. Now let's do our calendar area. First, just quickly, just so that we've got something to look at, our first week, if we say equals, we want that to be the sprint start date. And we're just going to press enter there. And it's come up as bars because it's just a bit too big for that cell. So we're going to put it in the middle, but let's right click on this, go to Format, and we'll go to the number and custom again. We actually just want the day and the month to show, and we don't really want a dash, so that's what it's going to look like, the 15th of August, for us to start. And if we just decrease the size ever so slightly, we can make that bold over here, and now we've got a good start. The second cell, if we drag this across, we actually, just so we've got the formatting, if we say equals the previous cell plus 7, which is plus 7 days, so it's a week, it's going week by week. Now it's going week by week here. Now with this, we also want to add the borders that we want to add. So going back to our border tool, a little bit of a medium style gray, something in the middle, something on each side, and even on the top. Let's, if we can get that correct, and something on the bottom. Let's click OK. Now when we take this bottom corner and drag this across, it's going to drag the formula and all of that formatting that we've done. And as you can see, all of our weeks, week by week, will show up, and that's a great first start. Now for the second part, this is our sprints. We're going to select 2 cells and go to Merge and Center. And we're going to merge and center those and drag it across so we've got 2 together. Remember the color, we're going to make that a nice dark blue, I think. And we'll just keep that formatting for now. For the next one, it's going to be our month. We'll select 4 of these cells and merge those together. And the one on top of that is going to be the year. We'll select 4 cells again and merge those together. Now we can select all of these three things, go back to our fabulous borders tool. We might select a light gray or a medium gray. we'll see which one works the best. Put one in between, one on the left, and one on the right, one on the top, and one on the bottom, and one in the middle as well. So let's do them all, and we'll click OK. And now we've got our starting box. This is important because now we can select this top one and drag this all the way to the end so that we've got that there. And we can do the same for our sprints. Select those two and just drag that all the way over to the end. Now we've got that, and we're starting to see the colors and the shapes and the lines and the formatting. It's really starting to take shape. And now we can get into some of the inner workings of our Gantt chart. So we've already got our week by week, which is this one just equals our start date, and then it's +7 every single time to get a week by week by week. So let's look at our sprints from here. And this is a little bit of a tricky formula, so try and follow along, but here is the code as well if you need it. And what we're saying is, we're saying this first cell equals the word sprint in inverted commas, so it's a text string, sprint with a space. And then we're going to use something called concatenation with that, I think it's an ampersand or an and symbol. And so that's how we join two things together. So we use that, and then it's sprint, and then the number 1, which comes from the cell D2. So if we press enter here, you can see we've got sprint 1. Of course, we want that to be in the middle, so I'll just quickly select all of that and put that in the middle. There we go, that's a little bit nicer. Now, how do we do sprint 2 and sprint 3, and how do we make it dynamic? That is a little bit more complicated, but I'll talk you through it. So as you can see, the first part is it equals the word sprint, again in inverted commas with a space, and we're using the and symbol for our concatenation to join those two things together. Now, how do we get the next number? Well, the way we do it is we want to extract the number from the previous cell. So to do that, we want only what's on the right, because the number's on the right, and that's the cell M4, and we want the length of it to equal the number of characters minus the word sprint, which is 7 characters. So it's everything from the right except for the word sprint. And then once we've extracted that number, at the end here, we add 1 to that number so that it's sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. Now, I hope that makes sense. If we click enter here, magic, we have this sprint 2. And if we drag this all the way across, fingers crossed it will work. And it does. And that's part of the magic of Excel, just stuff like this, which is absolutely fantastic. Let's put this all the way over to the end. And there you go. We can have as many sprints as we like here. Now the same thing is going to be, or it's going to be a bit easier for us for the month. We'll say equals the second cell in this little section and enter. Now it's still got the 22nd of August. So we want to right click and format this. And we want to go back to our number, custom. And we actually just want 3 M's, so it's the month. You could put 4 M's and it will do the whole month if you want, but it's up to you. You can really pick and choose. There we go. Now that's going to be August. And if we drag that one across, you can see that's dynamic for all of the months that we have that our sprints are in. We will color these cells maybe just a lighter blue. And that's looking pretty nice. The last one we want is our year. We'll say equals, again, the second week there, just to make sure that it's capturing the majority of this little section. And oh no, it's come up as August again. So let's right click, format those cells, go back to our custom area, and we just want 4 Ys so that it's the year in full. And if we click OK, that changes for us. Just again, by magic, we'll make that bold and drag that all the way across. And wow, this is really starting to look good now. All right, we'll do a few things in this section like our status and the days, and then we'll get to our Gantt chart conditional formatting. The first thing we want to do is our status, and there's a few different ways to do this. I'll show you a nice, easy way. Let's select all of the cells in this column. we'll go to data and data validation again, and it brings up this box for us. So the settings are, we want to allow a list, and in that list we can either take it from a bunch of cells, so it could be different list items in the cells, or we can just write it in here. So the first one I think is not started. We'll put a comma for our next item. Next one is in progress, and after that it could be blocked, and after that it could be complete. So all of those things together, make sure there's a comma in between them. We'll click OK. Now we have this little drop down box which will say in progress, blocked, or whatever it is that we want to select. Again, let's make this nice and in the center, just in the middle there, maybe in the center as well. That looks quite nice. Now let's quickly do the days that we're working on this item. And to do that, it's just a very simple formula, this one. The main part of the formula is network days, but it could just be days if you wanted it to. Network days gives us the work days that we're working on it, whereas days gives us all of the days. So it's really up to you which one you prefer. And I'm just saying here, if the end date is blank, then we want to return nothing. So nothing inside those quotes. But if it's not blank, then we want to return the days between the start and the end date. And we'll click enter here, and there it goes, 71 days. We can copy this, select all of our section, right click and paste those formulas. Let's put those in the middle and in the middle again. And as you can see, if there's nothing here, then it will return nothing for us, which is exactly what we want, just to keep it nice and neat. Now we're going to get into a little bit more of the complicated stuff, which is creating the Gantt chart bars and all of that, those inner workings. And I'll show you what these two columns G and H are for. Let's get into that next. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is select this first week. Just go to View, and we want to freeze the panes here. And by doing that, actually it's going to be the one under this. So I'll say unfreeze these panes. We just want the top left of the Gantt calendar. Let's freeze those. I think that's going to be correct. So for this, now if we scroll across, we can still see all of our data on the left. And also if we scroll down, we can still see that top area no matter how far down we go. So this is going to really, really help us. Now, the first thing we are going to do is a little tiny bit complicated, but stay with me. And there is a very, very particular reason we need to do this. So I'm going to open up the formula bar first. And here is the formula that we're going to use, but don't be put off by this. Now, the reason we need to do this is because we need our start and end dates to actually match the sprint start days. And the reason for that is your sprint could start on any day. It could be a Wednesday start sprint, could be a Monday, could be a Saturday, could be a Friday. I've seen many different teams, and there are many different ways that people start and days that people start their sprints. So we need to adjust this so that it matches, so that our Gantt bars will show up. And what this formula does is, first of all, if the start date is blank, then we're just going to return nothing. So that just stops us from having errors, and it keeps it nice and clean. Now the second part is saying if the start date is less than the sprint start date, and this is on the days of the week. So if it's less, if we're starting on a Wednesday and our start date is on a Tuesday, for example, then the next one is we're going to add the difference in the days to bring it up to the sprint start date. But if it's over the sprint start date, we're going to minus the difference to bring it back to the sprint start day of the week. Now, I know that's a lot to take in, but that is the formula, and it took me a little while to figure that out. So that has saved you probably at least 1 hour, probably 20 hours, but that is there. And we're going to take that and drag that across because it's going to apply to our end date as well. Now the formatting, as you can see, it's not the same. Let's do a little formatting trick. If we select one that's already formatted the way we want it, and click Format Painter. Then that will format the other ones that we want as well in the same way. Do the same thing. Now if we select these two cells, Control C to copy, go all the way down to the end, right click and just go to Paste Formulas. Oh, and it's done the same thing, but again we'll copy our Format Painter. And that way that looks really good. Now we're going to close up our formula cell, and ultimately when we have finished our Gantt chart, we can select these two columns up here, right click and hide those, and then it still looks really nice, but we have the benefit of those two helper columns to make sure that our Gantt chart bars and our Gantt chart progress is 100% correct. And let's get into those now. So the way we're going to do this is select the top left-hand cell in our Gantt chart calendar, and then go to Home and Conditional Formatting, and we're going to just go to Manage Rules. Now with our Managing Rules, we haven't got anything there yet, so we're going to click New Rule. And the rule that we want to set up is based on our own formula down here. And here is the magic formula. What we're saying is we want if the current date, M5, is more than the start date, but less than the end date, so it's in between those two dates, then we want to color this. And if we just go to, I'll go back there, go to Format and go to the Fill tab, let's click More Colors. We'll give ourselves just a nice light blue, I think. Click OK and click OK again. Now if we click Apply, you'll notice that nothing really happens, and that is because we need to apply this to our entire Gantt chart. So from the top left to the bottom right. Now what cell is that? I can't remember, but if I scroll all the way over to the right and all the way down, if I hold Shift and click, let's see if that does that, and it does. So it's from M6 to CZ43, and that's that whole area, and we're going to use this whole area every time we do something in our Gantt chart. Now we can click Apply, and if we go back, now we've got the Gantt chart bars that we were looking for. Now they're looking a little bit funny, the borders aren't really showing up. Let's have a look and see if we can make some nicer borders here. Those ones are a little bit darker. I think it's up to you whether you want to choose that or a lighter color. That's completely up to you. All right, let's go back to our top left-hand cell, go back to Conditional Formatting, manage those rules. We're going to select a new rule because we want the progress for our Gantt chart bars. And the formula we're going to use now is what we want is if K6, which is our progress bar, as long as that's greater than 0, as long as we've got some progress, so we want that, then what we want is if the date is more than the start date, but less than the start date plus the progress, the percentage of progress. So it's still in between those two areas. Then we're going to color it our whatever color that we choose. Going to Format, Fill, More Colors. We'll give this one a little bit of a darker green and click OK, and we'll click OK again. Now if we click Apply, again nothing happens because it needs to apply to our whole Gantt chart area. We'll just copy that, make sure that's in there. Now if we click Apply, all right, we've got some progress bars. Now just looking at this, with our progress bars, the borders aren't showing up really well. So if we just go back, we can actually change those borders in our formatting. So under border, let's give ourselves a lighter gray for the progress bars, and we can put it all the way around, I think, on the inside and on the outside. Click OK, OK again, and Apply. All right, now we can see those borders a little bit better. So there's a lot of different things that we can format with conditional formatting. Okay, now we want a little diamond or a milestone diamond at the end of the complete, once our item is complete. And here is the formula for that. It's if this date equals the end date that we created previously. Remember, we made it match up with the sprint start date or the day of the week. So if that is the case, we want a U, and I'll show you why in a second. But if it's not the case, then we just want it to be blank. So we're going to press enter, and this one doesn't match, so it's just going to be blank. But if we copy this cell and go all the way over to the right click and click paste formulas, then we should get a U around here somewhere, and we do. Now I'm just going to copy this, select the rest of our Gantt chart area and paste the formulas again so that that is all the way through. And while I'm here, let's put it in the middle and maybe make it bold. Now we don't want a whole bunch of U's. What we actually want is the diamonds. So for this, we're going to go to our font and just select Wingdings font. And now by selecting that, we get a nice, beautiful diamond. Now there's a whole bunch of different things that we could use in Wingdings or another font called Webdings. Just to give you an example, if you search for this on the internet, you'll find some good guides on what Webdings and Wingdings will give you. Just as one example, if we say Webdings over in the font here and change that, then it's going to change it to this suitcase. But if we make it an N instead of a U, let's just copy this across. Now we've got some nice circles instead of diamonds. So there's a whole bunch of different shapes that you can use using Webdings or Wingdings. It's completely up to you. I think for our purposes, let's stick with the diamonds for now. Now when an item is complete, we actually want to change it to that nice golden color. So let's select our top left cell, conditional formatting, manage our rules again. We'll add another rule, use a formula, and here is the formula that we want. If, or at the same time, we want J6 to be complete, not blocked or in progress or anything else. And we also want the date to equal the end date that we have set up previously that matches our sprint day of the week. Now we want to format this to be just a nice yellow. Can be any color that you like, of course. If we click OK, make sure that it applies to all of the Gantt chart area that we want it to apply to. Click apply. And again, magic. We've got these beautiful complete cells right at the end. If it is complete, we can change this, and that does change. So that's really good. And again, our progress, if we change our progress, then that's going to update for us. Maybe we'll make this one 100%, looking really good. Two more things to go. We just want the blocked section back to our conditional formatting, back to new rule, back to finding a formula. And here is the formula that we're going to use. At the same time, of course, and we want all of these things to be true. If J6 equals blocked, so here's an example here, and if the percentage is greater than 0, and then we want that same percentage progress. So if it's less than the progress but greater than the start date, and can I increase this here? If I cannot increase this, I'll paste this somewhere else. Actually, it's a bit too long, so I'll add this in really quickly. We'll give ourselves a nice orangey color if it's blocked, just to give us a nice warning there. I'll click OK, make sure it applies to the right section, click apply. Now I'm just going to show you that formula because it was so long. And there we go, if we increase that size here, I'll just open up the formula bar here. And now we can see a few other things. We can see the cells that it's referring to, which is kind of nice. It's that sprint start week, the percentage and the in progress, and of course our end date, which we have hidden in between these two cells. So there it is there. That's for our blocked formula. And as you can see, if we make these blocked, now it's going to give us that beautiful warning. Instead of complete, we can see very clearly that something needs to be done and we can take action. Now our very last one is our today bar, or the current bar that shows us where we are in relation to our project. Let's go back to our conditional formatting, adding a new formula again, And this one is also a long formula, so I'll paste this in and then I'll show it to you in a second. We're just going to format this, and our border is going to be a nice thick border, maybe a nice dark green, just on the left hand side. If we click OK and click OK again, make sure it applies to the right area. Then when we apply this and click OK, now you can see we've got, this will show today's bar for wherever you are in your Gantt chart. And here is the formula just really quickly. I'll open up that formula area again. And so it's, we want these things to be true at the same time. Now, again, this one took me quite a little bit of time to figure out, because we are trying to start it on the same day, and it has to match up with the same day as our sprint start day, because all of our calendar revolves around this sprint starting day. So it's a little bit more complex, but ultimately there is the formula that works, that revolves around the today formula. And then if it's less than the sprint start day, we're going to bring it up. And if it's more than the sprint start day, we're going to bring it back so that it matches somewhere in the middle exactly where we want it. But now at the end of all that, you and I have created something absolutely beautiful together. And here is the finished product. So you've done an amazing job. This is your Agile Gantt chart. Perfect if you're a product owner. You can now see your features and where they're going to be scheduled and which sprint they're going to be scheduled in. So it's absolutely beautiful. And again, this is really quite complicated and quite complex to create, especially from scratch. So if you don't want to do this yourself, you can pick this up. The link is in the description, and you'll get 50 other templates to save you hundreds of hours and really help you with your projects, especially with all these different Gantt charts. They will just really, really impress the boss. Anyway, I hope you've had a great time. I've had an absolute blast creating this with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.